This morning I woke up and I was determined to figure out a plan or a new way of tracking my sinking funds. I try sharing my story to remind leaders that there is a way out, that with hard work, dedication, determination, motivation, it's all about having a plan for your money, and that's what gives you the true control. Holy crap, it just changed my life. You're like, oh man, Nico, it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes work.
But no more credit card debt.
So the ones that I've been currently using, they work fine. If you like them, you can continue to use them. For me, they just weren't doing it. I sat down today, I've spent about 4.5 hours so far working on these new sinking funds savings trackers. With sinking funds, and this is why it took me so long, the design of it took long, but also the planning of it. Here's the thing with sinking funds. Sinking funds is, yes, it's simply just putting money aside every single month. A small amount of money every single month for a dedicated purpose. However, it's a little bit more involved than that. So when you're dealing with sinking funds, there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of and look at. One is, what can you realistically afford? So I have a lot of readers who reached out to me who saw my sinking funds, went out, created a whole list, a bunch of things that they wanted to plan and save for in advance, and then they wrote me back and said, Nico, literally all of my sinking funds are eating up all of my extra income. I have nothing left to throw at debt or other savings. So you have to look at your budget first and see what you can realistically afford for these types of things. So I had to not just figure out how to track what I'm saving and make it in a visual way, but to give you a step in that process to make sure that you are looking at your budget and making sure that what the monthly amount that you need to save for your sinking funds can actually fit into your budget. If you find that your sinking funds, so I know a lot of people see that I save for specific holidays and events. If you get a sinking fund list that's this big and you realize that you can't afford to save for everything, then you can't afford to save for everything. You have to downsize and prioritize what you're wanting to save for. When I first started doing it, I think I had 2 sinking funds at the time when I first started. It was Christmas and it was back to school. I had to make it work for the other things that I wanted to save for. Birthdays, Christmas. Christmas came soon after for me. But the things that I want you to focus on for your sinking funds is the things that are super important, okay? It'd be Christmas, which is a huge spending holiday. Maybe it's a house maintenance fund. Maybe it's a car maintenance fund. Everybody's priorities and sinking funds are going to be different. And so when you have your huge list and you realize, oh my gosh, I can't save monthly for all these different things, then it's time to downsize. And the first things that I would start eliminating from your sinking funds list, and some people might hate me for this, but you make it work, is birthdays. It's Valentine's Day. It's those things that you can either figure out when the time comes, like maybe you can sell some clothing, or maybe you can do something for some extra income. Or what I did was I made it work with no money. So for the first 2 years for birthday gifts, I did homemade gifts here at home, or I chose to spend my time with them instead. Like my mom, I used to have her on my sinking funds, but I have no problem calling my mom and saying, hey mom, it's not my budget to get you a birthday present this year, but I would really, really like to take you out horse riding, or I would really like to spend the day with you doing this, this, and this. Or mom, is there a movie that you've been really wanting to watch? Let's watch it at home. Let's do some popcorn and some tea. That's me and my mom's favorite things to do together. But you have to make it work. And so downsize, really prioritize those sinking funds. So what I'm going to be showing you today are those new sinking funds savings trackers and how I'm making it work. Now, some of the information is a little bit the same from the last sinking funds, but it's important information. So let me show you what I have going on. All right, so here are the new sinking funds savings trackers. Now, like I told you, planning your sinking funds is a process. It's not a matter of just saying, oh, I want to save for this, this, and this, and this. No, you have to plan. And so here's what I suggest. We're going to look at my budget, for example, for my budget on the 28th. Now, this is a monthly budget because it's my monthly income for my business, but let's go back and say the paycheck of the 20th. What I want you to do before you even begin deciding what your sinking funds are, I want you to do a mock budget or even look at a recent budget. Figure out what your monthly bills, your priority bills are, and your cash envelopes, your variable spending, your gas, your food, your beauty, your household supplies. These two areas of the bill tracker are the most important part of your budget because they're things that have to be paid, with exception. The monthly bills are priority bills, they're necessities. You have to pay them, you don't have a choice. When you get down here to your cash envelopes, you have a little bit more control on these, on the amounts that you choose to spend, but it has to be realistic to your past spending. Write these two things out. Figure out how much money you have left over. As you can see, I had $114 left over. Then you have to decide, where is the most important part in my life where that money could go? Is it to debt? Is it to sinking funds? You have to personally make that choice for yourself. And the first thing I want you to do when you're deciding what to do with your extra income is ask yourself the question, what will get me to my financial goals faster? If your financial goals are paying off debt, maybe you put $50 aside into a savings plan and all the rest goes to debt. Or you could be a type of person that says, I don't want to worry about my savings right now. I want it to go to all to debt, and that's fine. It's whatever makes you sleep more peaceful at night. And in your heart, you know you're making the right decisions, because without that confidence, the passion and the motivation and the drive to continue on what you're doing will not be there. You have to be fully confident in your choices and feel 100% at peace with what you're doing, no matter what anyone else tells you, no matter what anyone else is showing you, no matter what anyone else is telling you should be doing. What you should be doing is what you feel is right for you and your finances, because no one else in this world knows them better than you. So, get the bills down on your budget. And if it even helps you, put your bills and your cash envelopes in monthly form. Write down all of your expenses for the entire month. Write all of your cash envelopes down for the entire month. What do you have left over? So for me, I have no debt. So my priorities and sinking funds might look differently than someone who does have debt, which might be a higher priority than savings. But I looked at, what do I have left over and what can I save with that leftover income? So for me, I have sinking funds and I have a major goal. And as you can see, my major goal is priority. It's more than what I'm putting towards sinking funds. So that's how I want you to tackle what your sinking funds are and how much you can afford. Now, if you are a paycheck budgeter, you're going to take your monthly amount that you can afford for your sinking funds and you're going to divide it by your number of paychecks. So let me go ahead and show you. This is the first worksheet in the sinking funds. It's called Sinking Funds Savings Details. This is your roadmap. This is your plan. Feel free to write out things, add things, subtract things, write your notes. But this is what's going to show you, one, what do you want to save for? Here are your goals. 2, what is your goal amount for the year for that goal? Now, my sinking funds are holidays and events. Yours might be a car maintenance fund that doesn't have, say, a due date, and that's fine. Leave those blank if it doesn't apply to your sinking fund. But I have yearly goals for my sinking funds because they're holidays and they're events. So, for instance, for James's birthday, I want $200, and I want it by July. So now my situation is a little bit different, and same yours might be as well. I started saving for these sinking funds in January, with the exception of Valentine's Day. But these are the monthly amounts that I need to save for in order to reach it by my due date. Now, for my due dates, like for Christmas, I want my due date by November. I don't want it up until the exact day of Christmas because I want to plan. I'm going to be spending that money before Christmas actually hits. So I actually have 11 months to save $800 for this year. But this is what you're planning to do for your sinking funds. These are your details. The next thing on the sinking fund savings tracker is tracking how much you save. But not only that, here's where it gets a little bit more complicated. Now before, and this is what took me some time this morning, before, let's say for instance, Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, I want to save by January. So that means I started saving for this Valentine's Day for 2018 back in July of 2017. But what I'm going to do now is instead, when I reached my goal for Valentine's Day in January. And as you can see, for this year, I started out with $93 for Valentine's Day. I added $7 in the month of January, and I had an ending balance of $100. That means in February, I started with $100, but I used my sinking funds envelope in February for Valentine's Day. And as you can see, here I am, minus 100. It brought me back down to 0. So I'm going to start saving again for this sinking fund in March. Starting with the 0 balance, I'm starting all over again. And I'll show you what the visual looks like on that soon. But this is exactly how much you're saving every month. Now, I'm a paycheck budgeter, which means that now it's going to change because I'm switching to full-time for my self-employment income, which will be once a month. But in February, as you can see, so here's February, I put $8 for my first paycheck to 4th of July, but I'll have a second paycheck. I put $17 for my paycheck on February 5th to Chris's birthday, but I'll do it again. So I'll have 2 deposits here, and that's why these ones are blank right here. I'm not going to be taking anything out for these yet, and then I'll be able to put my ending balance at the end of February. But it's great because it lets you know exactly for every single month how much you're saving or withdrawing for your sinking funds, as well as the goals up at the top. That's the sinking fund savings tracker. Now for the visual. This is what the visual looks like. And this is your sinking fund saving visual. How this works is every single one of these squares, there's 10 of them. So you would write, for instance, your goals down here at the bottom, Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, I hit my goal. I had a $100 goal. So I would take $100 and divide by the number of boxes, which is 10. So each box represents $10. And I colored those in because I hit that goal. Same with the rest of my sinking funds. So 4th of July, I have a $100 goal. All of these boxes represent $10. And here I am coloring in every time I hit $10. It lets me see how I am doing in my progress with my sinking funds as a visual. The next thing, same with James's and Chris's birthday. Now Christmas, I have yet to hit my first box of $80. And you can see this by looking at your tracker. Here's Christmas. By end of January, I only had $73. I didn't have enough to fill in this first box, but I will after February. And same with back to school. You can look at how much you have in your sinking fund. So in January, my ending balance for my sinking fund for back to school was $32. I colored in my first $25 square. Now here's where it gets a little bit crazy. Because for Valentine's Day, I'm going to start saving for Valentine's Day of 2020 in March, this tracker is only for 2019. So I created a tracker for 2020, and you might be the same way. So before, I was just saying to myself, Valentine's Day, I'll just pick up saving for it again in July. No, I'm going to start saving for it the moment that I deplete my savings sinking funds envelope. So I will start filling in these boxes come March of this year for 2020. It's a great way to know exactly, and not only that, it gives you every single process in the sinking funds journey. It's figuring out how much you can save by looking at your budget right here, getting those details down, figuring out how much monthly you can do towards your sinking funds and what your goal is and when you want it saved by. From there, you start tracking. You start tracking what it looks like when you're adding, or like I did for Valentine's Day, depleting your envelopes and then starting again. And then it's also being aware at all times by looking at your visual tracker of where you are with all of your sinking funds on one page. Now for the sinking funds new worksheets, there's 8 areas for 8 goals. This is what I'm testing out, and this is what I came up with this morning.
If you found this video helpful, please share it and don't forget to subscribe.